February 6th, 2025, and you're listening to Super Gamecast Daily. I am your host, Rob Zavior, joined by a Mr. Lucy Morningstar.
Hello, hello.
Hello, how you doing, my good sir? How you doing?
Doing pretty good. I have been enjoying the early access to Civilization 7.
I bet. I've heard some mixed things. We're definitely gonna get to that later in the show for sure. Because primarily we are a news show, as you do know, as I'm sure that all the people watching this have seen via clips and things of that nature that have now been hitting the YouTube every day. This show every day, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, except Fridays, where it's at 9, where we get weird. And then we also have our, then we have our daily clips the next day. So if you like those, just come check out the full show. Speaking of the full show, let's get into it. So, our first news story of the day. Grand Theft Auto 6 is on track for release in fall of 2025, Take-Two says. There are currently no plans to delay Rockstar's GTA 6, its parent company confirms. Lucy, how you feeling? Do you think it gets delayed? Do you think they're right?
I'm hoping they're right. Although I know that the other companies are not hoping they're right. Because it will put a damper on their sales. The moment this game comes out, it is going to be the largest selling game of all year.
Oh, it's yeah. This game, when it's out, it's going to be easily it's going to be the best selling game of the year it's out, and possibly even the following year, depending on what comes out in 2026. Assuming this makes this date. So during an investor presentation, discussing its quarter 3 earnings for financial year 2025, they have confirmed the game is still launching in fall of calendar 2025. It also says Borderlands 4 is planned to release later this year. It hasn't given more concrete release dates for either game. However, this may prove frustrating for other developers and publishers who are trying to plan around it, essentially. So last month, Bloomberg claimed that rival game publishers are waiting as long as possible to commit their release dates for next fall, or this upcoming fall, because GTA has its release planned. And then even Take-Two, the publisher of Grand Theft Auto, has said it's planning to avoid clashes for its biggest titles, so Borderlands 4 is unlikely to release anywhere near GTA 6. Saying, quote, I think it's safe to say we wouldn't and no one would stack up huge releases unnecessarily.
That would be a safe thing to do, but not knowing its official release date does not help anyone.
I don't think it does either. I think that it's one of those things where, like, the last several major Grand Theft Autos have all gotten delays. Sorry, I just realized I forgot to turn off the space here. So anyway, the last several Grand Theft Autos have gotten delays. GTA 4 got delayed, GTA 5 got delayed. So I wouldn't be surprised if this got delayed, but then again, they're very much like on track for a good day, like day and date, which God knows it's been. If it comes out this fall, it'll be 7 years since their last game, because their last game was Red Dead 2, which came out in 2018. So. And this game has a budget of $2 billion. Now, that is marketing combined, and I'm sure they're putting a huge marketing push behind it to put as much weight behind it as they possibly can. But my God, man. This means
this will be also 11 years since GTA 5.
No, 12 years, because that game came out in September of 2013. So,
12 years.
Lordy.
And even if it does come out and it's buggy, the GTA 5 came out and was buggy. The online didn't work that great. It still sold phenomenally. And if it wasn't for that and the massive updates with their online, I don't think they would have been able to push it through three different consoles: PlayStation 3 era, PlayStation 4, and now we're in the current.
I will say they did hit the very last year of PS3 and 360 though. Like they came in the very last year. So that is to be considered. I also think that, yeah, of course they put out updates to the live service. I was pissed that they never put out an update to single player. I will
Yeah,
I will die mad about that forever.
you're not the
Like
only one.
I understand like the GTA Online was huge, it was very popular. I even had fun with it. I didn't really care for anything besides the heist, but the heists were amazing. I just wanted more of that campaign. In fact, that's my biggest fear for this game is that like they're focusing a ton on the online and not the campaign, and the campaign suffers for it. Because I don't play any
Yeah,
of Rockstar's games really thinking about the online all that much. Like I played a little bit of Red Dead Online, but most of my 80 hours in that game were spent in the single player. Um,
yeah, and the online just did not have the same effect as GTA did.
you
Um,
could you could play you,
Going back to the rumored story add-ons that they had for GTA 5, like they had one where Trevor was supposed to be rumored to be like working as like a government agent type thing. And so some of the rumors that they were working on, like that's what we wanted. That would have been great. They would have sold a ton of DLC on that one alone if they did
I
single player.
I think they would too. I just think they were making so much money from the online that it was really hard to justify doing anything else. Like that's the unfortunate truth of it. But speaking of Grand Theft Auto and Take-Two, Take-Two Interactive, huge publisher, as you know, they do Borderlands, they do 2K Sports, their big name. They also happened to have another big news story go live today, which is their CEO says, quote, AI could increase employment and productivity as long as IP isn't infringed. He also says, quote, can't think of any new guardrails that need to be implemented for AI use in development. Jesus Christ.
I swear he lives in an ivory underneath an ivory rock.
I, yeah, so
The
he
fact that
didn't.
he says artificial intelligence is an oxymoron, there's no such thing, just proves how much he does not understand what AI and its effect.
Well, like, I think that, like, he's somewhat right. And I'll get into that, you know, I'll get into that more in a sec. It technically doesn't learn, there are convenient ways, and it's a convenient way to explain things, which, okay, I get. But, like, dude, these straight up can take some jobs. Like, for, like, lower level, your senior engineer and programmer, it's not gonna take his job. Your mid level, it might eventually take his. Your low level, he's done. Same thing with artists, same thing with a lot of stuff. I do agree with him in this sense. The bottom line is these are digital tools, and we've used digital tools forever. I have no doubt that what is considered AI today will help make our business more efficient and help us do better work, but it won't reduce employment. I don't know, like,
Reducement of employment, though, just that one is where I'm like,
I,
no, it's
I,
going to, because like you said, the lower end is going to be largely affected by it. If we
yeah,
don't look at how Activision has also blatantly used AI, um, if you're not going to, you're either going to replace people to do AI work, or people are going to be mad about it and quit, like the voice actors from the new Call of Duty.
Well, yeah, they were part of that SAG-AFTRA strike, as I found out this past week. Which,
Oh,
the concern, which that strike's been going on for a year, and there's this big concern in the video game industry and in a bunch of different industries. AI is going to take jobs. It's going to take lower level jobs. It's going to make it so some actors work forever, even when they're dead. And that last one's horrifying, and then the other ones are, yeah, it's a legitimate concern because, like, oh, you want to work for insert big company here, Blizzard, Activision, Take Two, Rockstar, whoever, and you're like getting your feet in the door. They're not gonna want you because they already got AI doing that, and I think that you also have the environmental concerns because it does burn a shit ton of power. And the main concern of the artists that are working with this is like, we don't necessarily mind its usage, but we want to get paid for it in the case of the artist. That's where the artists are at. So it's like there have been multiple artists that say, look, we don't want to sign a no AI ever thing. We want to sign, if you're going to use our voice as a model for an AI, we want to get paid. And I think that's totally fair. I think that's absolutely
yeah,
fair.
absolutely.
Like, they don't want to get trained for an AI and then get told, whoops a doodle, we don't need to hire you ever again. Um, and this isn't the only CEO saying this. Last year, the EA CEO, Andrew Wilson, said it'd have a transformative impact. He believes generative AI can have on a game and a company and the wider games business over the next 5 years. I've said in the past that it might take 6 months to build an in-game sports stadium, but last year that time shrunk to 6 weeks, and over the coming years, maybe cut to 6 days. Okay, that does work in that one instance, and the reason is because of the fact that those are real places that you can tell them, hey, recreate this real place. But it's not something an artist has to go in and make necessarily. So that's kind of where that one falls apart. I don't mind it, like I said, as a tool. That's one thing, is because you have cases where, like, Blizzard uses it for tedious bullshit, for example. They said, hey, the way we use AI is to make it so models we'll make a set of armor and we'll model it to one race of characters that you play as, but we have 17 different races that you play as. So we need to be able to model this armor to each and every single race that you play as. So we just pawn most of that work off on AI instead of it taking tens of hours for some dude to go do it. Yeah.
That's totally acceptable, and that's using it the way it needs to without anyone losing a job over it.
Yeah, and that in that case, an animator's time can and a designer's time can be used on something better. A story that's linked to this that happened this week is hey, you and I played that Indiana Jones game. Uh,
That's a beautiful game.
it was one of my games of the year, and I would recommend everyone play it. It's on Game Pass, and even if it wasn't on Game Pass, I would say it is absolutely worth the $70. Well, the Troy Baker had something to say about it, saying Troy Baker as indie shows you don't need to steal actors' souls with AI. Baker's portrayal of Indiana Jones suggests there's no need for AI performances, says Harrison Ford.
I can actually relate this to a lot of talk over the ending of season 2 of Mandalorian, where they brought in Luke. The same thing was wanted, like after the fact. We wanted as fans Sebastian Stan to step in as Luke, and then they could have used CGI to kind of make him look more like. But they went the route they did, and that is what it is. In this particular case, they wound up using a really good voice actor, and he did an amazing job as Indy. Sometimes I can barely tell that it's
I,
not Harrison.
Yeah, I'm gonna be real. There is very little where you can tell the difference. Like I watched all three of those movies recently, showing to my girlfriend to them to the first time, and while playing the game, and like unless you're doing those back to back like I was, I think most people would have a hard time telling the difference. But
I actually, I actually watch them pretty regularly, and to see the one-to-one um, between the beginning of the game and it's parts of the first one, right?
yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yep.
Yeah, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and it just looks so accurate. I mean, it's not like uncanny valley accurate, but it was so well represented. It was just an absolutely gorgeous game, and the voice acting was absolutely amazing. So there's no reason that we can't. I mean, aside from the fact that he is portraying Harrison Ford, so they kind of have to use his looks, which is to the character. Um, I don't know how much that plays into it though, because does Harrison actually get royalties off of the fact that it's his likeness out of the game?
In most cases you would, yes.
So I mean, as long as that's done, there shouldn't be an issue where we need to use AI.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that. I think that that is a perfectly acceptable way to do this. I think that Harrison Ford nails it here. He did a brilliant job, and it didn't take AI to do it. Baker's impression is so good that to call it an impression feels unfair. There's a faultless performance. The serious side, sarcastic side, everything about Indy in the Great Circle is exactly how it should be. It all contributes to feeling that Indiana Jones: The Great Circle really is the lost sixth indie film. You mean fourth, lost fourth. Those other two didn't happen. Those you.
Hey, he lost a lot of sweat and tears in those movies, so to him, those still count.
Okay, that's fair. I guess. Sure. You know what? In those
They may
movies,
not be good, but he did. He put the work in. He had to suffer it.
you know what? And credit to him, it wasn't his fault. It wasn't his fault that those movies were not particularly great. I do think that this calls into a particular thing where it's just like AI is advancing so fast, and you need protections against it. I
Yes.
think that's the big thing. Is like, okay, if you're going to use AI for these performances, then we need to get paid for the use of our voice, or we need to get paid for the use of our art style. Like, for example, if you and I make a game that's super successful and like the company that was our publisher wants to use that art style and our voices, then great, you got to pay us. I think that that is fine. I think it does dilute art a little bit because part of art, in my opinion, is the human part of it is a human made it and it is their experience and their life and their everything. But if the companies try to nickel and dime any way they can, if they're gonna go down this road, then you need to protect the people who make the original art that all of this is based on. Because that's the thing about AI is it doesn't generate anything. It is literally it is learning what it understands from existing movies, existing articles, existing everything, and creating things out of it.
There are good ways to go about it, and there are bad. Let's see. The one of the admirals that passed away sadly years before the movie could be made in one of the Star Wars ones. They brought him back using AI. Now, watching it, it doesn't look bad. It was well done for the movie itself. And Rogue One was an amazing movie, regardless. But it did. That was like one of the beginnings of like mainstream talking about like, should we be doing this? This should be right. Did his family get compensated for bringing him back? And I've
I
heard
oh sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is like I've heard like conflicting stories. I've read articles where yeah, it did seem like she knew that they were doing that. She said it was okay, or I've also heard articles like he didn't want that happening. Uh, it's a very complicated system that it has to be walked a certain way. Has to be
I
there has to be regulations to protect people.
Yes, and I think if it is a deceased actor in particular, that person's family or their estate or whoever they set it up, it should have to go by whatever they put forth. So like, if I was an actor in that situation, I would say, yeah, you pay my full salary to my family if you're going to use an AI to recreate me. You know, like that's what I would put in place. I think one of the biggest issues that people see with AI is like it's moving so fast it's hard to put regulations in place, especially because you know we have dinosaurs as most of our lawmakers. So yeah, like that's kind
Walking
of
bags of dust.
sorry, what?
I said walking bags of dust.
Yes. But yeah, so all I'm saying, people, is as we always do on the show, vote with your dollar. Make sure that you are spending ethically, and if you know a game used AI in kind of a shady or sketch way, don't spend money there. Don't do that. Spend it elsewhere. There's literally hundreds of great video games that come out every year. You know, that's what I would say. You know, like that's our big lesson of the day, I guess.
It
Uh,
does make me regret buying Call of Duty, even though I loved it so much at the beginning. And I
yeah,
still just don't go back to it very often.
I'm glad I played it on Game Pass. Like, if I paid $70 for it, I would have been kind of like, it's okay, whatever. But you know, as far as a game that I got for as part of a subscription of a million other games, it was fine. Um, so yeah. Anyway, moving forward, we got another news story here, which is
Very
hey,
disappointing.
yeah, hey, you know those layoffs that happen all the time when we talk about news?
You mean like every day? Seems
Like
like.
almost every day, yeah, you know, blood for the blood god. Uh, yeah, like just the game industry throws the developers into the meat grinder, and their blood is what makes the video games. Um,
This time it's Bandai Namco with the axe.
yeah, Bandai Namco has lost over 100 developers since high-profile cancellations last year. Um, so according to automation, a filing in Japan's online pension database shows between April and February, 117 staff have left the company. It doesn't clarify who did voluntarily or not. The company was taking the traditional Japanese approach, reducing staff and sending workers to rooms where they're given nothing to do, putting up pressure on them to leave voluntarily. Okay, so I'm gonna school some people on some Japanese culture. I know I'm not dunking everybody where he knows everything about it, but in Japan work culture, if they need to do layoffs or they just don't like you for some reason or they want you to leave the company, they will give you something known as a window seat, where they'll give you a sometimes nothing, sometimes like BS to just put you in the corner where you're doing nothing, and then you'll just do nothing all day long until you quit of your own volition. And if you first, because culturally that's like very shameful in their culture, so you end up willing to leave anyway. Um, so yeah, last year they ceased production on several titles. One of those was a One Piece and Naruto licensed game, a game that was a contract project with Nintendo, and then they canceled their MMO and which was Blue Protocol. So yeah, they got a lot They had a lot of wins recently. Like that Dragon Ball game is the best-selling Dragon Ball game in their history, along
Yeah,
with
you've played a bit of that, haven't you?
yeah, I put 30 hours into it. I got the platinum. I
That's always a win.
Yeah.
If a game catches your attention at any point enough to make you want to get the plat or like 100% of it, that's a good game.
Yes. The way I would describe it though is like this is a 5 out of 5 Dragon Ball simulator and a 3 out of 5 video game. So your mileage with it is going to be depending on how much you like Dragon Ball. So anyway, yeah, this is unfortunate as always. Hope those dudes find work real quick. Some of those guys are probably really talented developers. I will say that this is kind of proof that if you have too many failures or canceled projects stack up, it doesn't matter what you make. Eventually, there will have to be layoffs. Because you gotta remember, this is a publisher of Elden Ring. Like, one of the most successful games of the past 2 years. Like, this is like, they got star power here, dog. They did Tekken. They're the Tekken people. Tekken came out last year. That was them. They got that Dragon Ball game last year. It's not like this is a studio with like no successes under their belt, right? Like this is a studio that just they just bet on a lot of stuff that didn't work out. They had that MMO that didn't work out. They had they just had a lot of stuff going on that didn't hit in their favor, So yeah.
It is rather
yeah, no, this is a super giga bummer. This is, and it's one of those things where studios, studios like just, it happens. And then, we're still kind of going off from the COVID layoffs that happened, where COVID caused a absolute just mass of layoffs to happen because, they did the thing where like, the good times are going to ride forever. Like people are in it not realizing that eventually the world was going to normalize and people weren't going to have 12 straight hours a day to play video games. I wish I did. I wish I had 12 straight hours a day to play video games. I do not.
I theoretically do, but I don't.
But you should count your blessings then.
It's only because I have mild to severe insomnia, so
yours like a monkey paw wish though. Like I wish I had 12 hours a day to play video games. Like that.
I rolled out of bed. Now my back's tweaked. I don't want to touch a controller today.
That's the part about getting old that sucks. Is you're like, you wake up and you're just like back hurts, or your knees hurt, or your thighs hurt, and it's like, what? I barely did anything. Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy being in your 20s, viewers.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Because the day that 30 hits and ticks, that first day you wake up, you're gonna have pains that you did not know that could be painful.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be hitting the gym starting next week. I'm gonna be hitting the gym starting on Monday, and just buddy. I'm already know I'm gonna be a sore boy. So
always starting up is always the hardest.
Yeah.
It's like I go on hiatus and then the first week I'm like, oh, I can do my usual workout. No.
Oh, I already know. Like my goal is like super like to just be able to do the treadmill consistently for half an hour. Like that's the like big goal right now. But hey, video game news. Let's get back on track. All right. So next up is got a fun little story. So Monster Hunter spurred the scariest moment in Shuei Yoshida's long career. Former president of Worldwide Studios for Sony Interactive revealed that Nintendo and Xbox orchestrated the two scariest moments of his, I believe, 30-year career at PlayStation, almost 30 years. He told MinMax in an interview saying that the release of the Xbox 360 1 year before PS3 was very, very scary, as those who considered waiting for Sony's console would be well behind in tasting the next generation of games. But the other biggest shock is when Nintendo had an announcement that Monster Hunter 4 was going to be a 3DS exclusive. Monster Hunter was a colossal hit on the PSP. It had 2 exclusive games. It was like, I'm going to go over this more in a minute, but Monster Hunter in Japan is like when a Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto comes out in America. That's how, like, huge it is.
Impressive.
Yes, like, it is probably, if I had to take a guess, it's probably the second biggest franchise in Japan. Yeah. But after the launch, they said, hey, this game is coming to Monster Hunter 4 is coming to 3DS only. And this happened right next to a price drop of the 3DS by $100. And they're like, oh my god. The biggest game on PSP was Monster Hunter, and this game is coming on 3DS exclusively. That's a big shock. And then, yeah, so there you go. Comments, Lucy?
Didn't he also talk about why Bloodborne is probably never going to get a sequel?
He didn't talk about whether there were going to be a sequel. He talked about how it's going to probably be a long wait because the director of the game doesn't want anyone else to touch it besides him, and he keeps getting busy with other projects like Elden Ring and Sekiro and whatnot. But yeah, no, I kind of wanted to reiterate that for everyone. It's just like, Monster Hunter is back then not as much. Like, if you would have told me Monster Hunter would like get as big as it is in America now, I would have been shocked. I'd have been like, no way, this game's too weird and obtuse for US audiences. Like, they're not going to catch on to it. But that they made some changes with Monster Hunter World on the PS4, and it is now like Capcom's second biggest franchise worldwide behind Resident Evil. Like, it's absurdly huge, and like so much so to like it like drops productivity in Japan. Like, it's crazy. The only bit. So if you're ever curious, do you know what the biggest game franchise is in Japan actually? I'm gonna assume that's no.
No, I do not. I was like,
It did not pick up on your microphone.
Oh.
So the biggest franchise in Japan is Dragon Quest. So much so that the Dragon Quest, the Japanese government has requested Dragon Quest games not come out on a weekday because it affects productivity too much.
All right. Okay. Again, your game's good when when your workforce is productivity goes down.
Yeah. I do think that a Monster Hunter 4 coming to Vita could have really helped turn the Vita around, because like then you have this big game that just grows and grows and grows and grows, but instead it helped sell a bajillion 3DSs in Japan and even in America. Because Monster Hunter 4 is when I first started noticing like friends of mine who had never played Monster Hunter really starting to get into Monster Hunter. Like, it went from like, oh, this is like what the weeaboos play, to starting to hit mainstream. Kind of an interesting little thing there with it,
I still haven't gotten into the franchise. I've played a few of the games. I think I've done a couple of demos. I I've said on the podcast before, I think I'm gonna try and get into this one with you guys.
No,
We'll see.
the
I'm gonna
beta's
definitely wait until I get some.
the beta's this weekend and next. So
Okay.
sorry, go ahead. Say
I
what
don't
you're gonna say.
know. I don't know if I can do this weekend. Not with yesterday's big early release.
We're gonna get more of that game in a minute. Yeah, no, I just saw a friend of mine hop into the beta, and I'm like, is it out in America now? Oh God, I have to get this show edited. Damn it. Uh, so,
Work.
uh,
Why do you work so much?
no, I used to be. So I was not big on Monster Hunter when I first tried it, because I tried it on the PSP when you had to play it with like hook claw, because you had to move the camera with the D-pad. So you had to like claw down on the D-pad while moving with the analog stick. And it wasn't for me. And then I tried what was it? The one that I tried for, and I was like, this is kind of cool. It's still a little weird and too obtuse. And then I played the one that came to the PS4, which was called World, where they streamlined some stuff, and that's where it finally clicked. Was like, oh, this franchise is sick. So yeah. Anyway, that's Monster Hunter. That's a little fun Monster Hunter story, as the beta just happened and the full release is out in what, 3 weeks? Yeah, 3 weeks. So, stay tuned. Aaron's gonna be doing a review of that. Looking forward to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Be
Yeah.
interesting getting your guys' input on this game,
Yeah.
especially from like a new player.
Yeah, like Aaron and I are both very new to the franchise overall, so any of the takes that we have on it in his full video review or like here or there on the Friday show is gonna be like very much, like new player centric, like people who do not know every last thing about Monster Hunter. Um, my favorite thing when playing World was always you do like a hunt and some rank 999 with a Japanese name tag would come in with you and just totally smoke the monster by himself. Like you're just sitting there like, why am I even here? Why didn't you just do this by yourself, homie? So,
That'd be me if I ever play World of Warcraft with you.
oh
Why did
God,
you invite me to play this?
yeah, my girlfriend has
I'm
played
just
with me.
standing here looking pretty.
My girlfriend has played with me, and she's like, that's the most I've ever been carried in a video game. Anyway, back on topic for the news. Last news story of the night. Civ 7 is out. Civ 7 is out, and it currently has mixed reviews on Steam. It is struggling with early user reviews, sitting at the mixed category on Steam with just days to go before launch. Civ 7 is now available to play only for players who purchased the Deluxe or Founders Editions, and they're already finding a slew of problems with the new esteemed 4X strategy series. The celebrated series traces its roots back to its first game, which was released in 1991. 8 years have passed since Civ 6. The 45% of the players have said positive things. So 55% have not nice things to say about the game. Primarily, the UI stands out as probably the biggest problem. Many PC players feel the game was created to be played on console and ported over to PC pre-release without much regard for the UI. While growing pains are expected with a new release in the series, people are finding it hard to find vital information, and multiple reviews have mentioned that it feels unfinished. Some seem really annoyed with notifications popping up on the screen as they tend to show up en masse, burying crucial notes under more trivial details, and sometimes disappearing without warning, leaving players in the dark about what is happening in their societies.
It's very true.
All right, so you played this.
I am, yes. I got the deluxe edition. I didn't see any point in actually spending the extra $30 when it's just cosmetics. I want to be able to play all the added packs. The founder edition is nice. but I think it's a little overpriced for what you're getting.
How much is it?
129. It's the
Jesus.
Founders Edition, and the Deluxe
Lordy.
Edition is $99.
My God. That's even the $100.
It is a lot. And it's been like this for a while with these Civ games because as a lot of players have mentioned, it feels like it's unfinished. Every time these games come out, you will get a slew of new leaders, factions, and game modes, and game modes will be attached to certain leader packs. So this is one of those games where like spending the extra money versus the standard edition is ideal because then you don't have to spend that money separately later and just have access to roll out.
I mean, I guess, but this is always my argument against these things is like, okay, but why don't you wait to see if you like the game first? And then you can buy that stuff later for the same price.
And that's very valid. I've been playing these games since I think I've played practically every single one of them. So I expected myself to enjoy it, and I would definitely be more on the positive ranking.
Okay, so
because I like it.
Do you feel these reviews are correct to where this interface on PC is big poopy and designed around console, or do you think it's these people are incorrect? Because sometimes that does happen where, like, a lot of the Dragon's Dogma 2 PC reviews last year were overblown, in my opinion.
So it's a interesting thing because they're both right and wrong at the same time is how I'm looking at it. The reason I say that is so with Civ 6 really overhauling their console version of it and then allowing PC players to play with console, I can see more why they were kind of making the UI and the game more accessible to console players without actually making special different features. Thinking back on Civilization 6 is the UI for the PC version versus the console version were actually quite different from each other.
Got you. What was the differences?
The console version was quite more simplified and in some cases a little bit more cartoon. It was even worse with the Civilization 5 as well. So, but this one, the graphic, it got a graphic overhaul.
Wait, I don't think Civ 5 ever got ported to PC or console.
It was also on the mobile.
Oh, okay, that's right. A mobile port.
Yeah,
okay.
It had a mobile port, and you see a lot of those aspects in Civ 6 when they put that on the console. As well. In this case, I can see how PC players were not very happy with that. And yes, the pop-ups are horrendous. They pop up. At one point during one of my games last night, I thought a leader was telling me to denounce another leader. I didn't realize because of how it was written. And I was thinking about it. I was like, okay, I'm dyslexic. Maybe I misread it.
Okay.
But it happened again, and I read it, and I was like, this isn't very clear that I'm denouncing him. I thought it makes it sound like he's asking me to denounce his leadership instead of him denouncing me. So there is some there's some UI and some wording that needs to be fixed. As far as some of the other things they're saying, it, like I said, they're both yes and no in the situation because now we're going to be able to, as far as the simplification of the UI and why it's so, it does feel incomplete as far as that. I don't see a valid reason why you would say the game as a whole is incomplete. We've got an entire slew of leaders to pick from. Then we have several nations to pick. This one has a very unique feature versus all the other ones. which a lot of players may be also having an issue. It's not in the past games, you start from the Stone Age and then you work up to modern age. So
Yeah.
there are certain features that are also now missing. There's no longer builders, so you don't have to make builders. The way that the cities are is as they grow, you pick a plot and you choose how to improve it, and it's very simplified into the point where I like it because I don't have to overthink and have to do the numbers or like plan things. You can in certain situations you can actually replace districts now instead of it just being stuck there and that's it.
One thing that
Also the comp. Yeah, go ahead.
well, one thing they also bring up is they took out automated settlers and there are limited map choices.
Yes. So the standard map is kind of small, and it automatically puts you on a smaller map. You can choose a bigger one, so we don't have really large maps in it. Starting out, I really don't see any point in doing that unless you're, especially with the new UI and the system that they have built. There's no reason to have massive maps unless they want to give us a legacy mode, which allows us to play like the older game, like from the Stone Age to modern age. So I can see why a lot of players, because we were talking about it in my stream last night, because we were noticing some changes, and I had somebody pop in, ask me some questions, and we were throwing back. Oh yeah, I didn't even notice the builder, and the builder was some like a unit you constantly make in order to maintain your roads, maintain building. You'd have to bring up a builder in case you got attacked. Now you could just pay coins, fix your tiles. You just upgrade the city. It is very a lot more straight lined as far as how your cities build up. But now you also have towns. Towns are like lower forms of cities. So you've got to play with what you have currently, but it doesn't bog you down with everything else, like having to maintain everything. Everything is more automated.
So I guess there's two parts to that is, but do you think that that kind of is weird that they did all that streamlining but took away automated settlers? And then the other thing I would have,
That's the
oh sorry, go ahead.
that's the weird thing that I was thinking of because like I read that and somebody else mentioned that they got rid of the automated settlers. I maybe it's just me, but I never used automated settlers. I was always making sure I was watching where my settlers would go because if I don't, a barbarian could take it. Or so I never did automatic settlers. I think what they were trying to say is like there's no auto explore. You can't just send out units to auto explore. Your scouts don't have that ability. They do have some new abilities that make them more important, which we'll get into on the more positive side of things. But there's no auto explore, which I think that's what they're referring to. Auto settlers, there's no, I don't know what they mean by that. It sounds like that would be like you have a settler, you let it go, and it will automatically settle somewhere, and that will be another city for you. So that one I don't know. I think they mean auto.
Okay. And my other big question that always comes when streamlining a game happens, you tend to have depth removed with it. You know, I'm a big Warcraft player, and there when you smooth out edges of that game, it ends up losing a lot of depth. It's actually one of my big critiques of Final Fantasy 14 is that that game lost a lot of depth over time because they smoothed out a lot of those edges and streamlined it. So, do you think that the streamlining here removes depth?
I don't. I will say no. No, it does not. Because as they've streamlined some of the some of these settings and how you go about expanding. They've also added depth with like resources. You have to manually organizing a lot more, just not of the mundane stuff that kind of was monotonous or annoying. Like they've also made updates with the combat system is a lot more engaging and efficient, especially with commanders. Commanders were just like you'd have them near your units and they'd have some bonuses. Couldn't really attack with them or anything. Now you can have units automatically from the beginning of your game, and you'll stack them as an army, an actual army, which I find it weird that we haven't had this function before. You just have scattered out all these units until you research a certain tree, and then you'd be able to make 3 units on one block. No, this time you can move all the different units into an army army configuration, and then the commander itself has different attacks. So if you have archers in with there, and you just want to focus damage to the archers, you can get all of them to attack at once instead of doing it one unit by one unit. So they've made combat a lot more engaging, and some of the units that they have make it a lot easier to go through the war progress without having to make sure you click on every single unit to do something.
Okay. Yeah. No, all right. That actually does sound like a big improvement, and like they kept some of the depth of their. I know that a lot of this is around combat and war and whatnot. Have there been any changes to the other ways that you can win? Because I know my girlfriend's a big fan of the we're gonna win with science and knowledge. I know that I start out trying to win with science, and then everyone gets really aggro, and then I'm like, fine, let's build up the war machine. So where do you think your take on that is?
So that's another thing that they added and really put some depth in. It's no longer, okay, so I'm going to build up my science. I'm going to go through the tree. That's how I'm going to get a science victory. I'm going to shoot a rocket off into space. No. So one of the things they implemented is adding a system where, depending on which advisor you pick, there's an advisor for culture, war, science, and influence. Or no, religion. So you pick that advisor, it gives you steps and it gives you advice and steps towards earning that. So I went war because I was like, all right, this is my first game. I'm getting into this. I'm going to wait and play out the game. So I'm going to play in easy mode, essentially, and just go to war. That's what these games are known for. So, like, I had to research a certain thing to get points towards military. I had, one of the ones I have to do right now for my military is I have to settle in a distant land, which it's not always just war. Like you have to do all these other things, and then that gives you points, and then you move towards a golden era, which it's split up into 3 different settings instead of keeping you in one continuously storyline. After you hit one era finishes, you'll keep your leader, but you have to switch nations to keep track of that one. You have antiquity, modern, and then
What was the last one?
I'm still I think medieval.
Okay.
So it breaks up the whole entire game into 3 points. You can either just play one of them, and then it'll transition you into the new era, new leader and whatnot, new technologies, trees. Oh, and the technology tree's been revamped. It's no longer a straight line anymore. So technology is they give you a certain amount of technology research during that era, and then you can add mastery on top of it, and then just keep pushing, and it'll add benefits to every bit of, say, your resources, your happiness, your production rates. Everything has been revamped to. So as much as they streamlined a lot of it, they add a lot of depth that you have to think about, like instead of just focusing on the small, minute things that I found monotonous that a lot of people are missing. Yes, it's simplified and it works on a console and PC, but now you've got more things to worry like constantly keep track of that are actually beneficial. So you have to plan out what you want to research, what civic trees will be for this era, because the next era is going to have a whole new set of technologies and civil patterns and benefits, and you'll only keep certain ones across the eras.
Okay, so I know that you've only gotten to play it for what, a day, 2 days?
I started yesterday.
Oh, yeah, so one day. So your first impressions so far are pretty positive, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, good to hear that Civ is doing well. I know that I'm probably gonna do what I always do, where I completely forget that this game came out, and then in a year a Steam sale is gonna happen where it's like 75% off, and I'm like, oh, cool, I can play Civ now. Like, I got to Civ 6 like 2.5 years late. So,
And that in this case, that's Civ's just one of those games. That's a good way to go about it, unless you're like hardcore loving it, like I do.
mhm.
One thing I noticed that they didn't talk about that a lot of people are talking about is the multiplayer function is a little bugged at the moment. There's a lot of crashes going on. So, but yeah, in your case, wait for it to go on sale, get it, and by then the multiplayer will be great. The UI will be fixed. Hopefully, because I don't think there's a setting to get rid of the tutorial pop-ups, and they come one after another after another. Then you're gonna click through. So that's a
Yeah.
very valid issue with the game.
Well, anyway, that's the news. That's Civ impressions, everybody. I know we didn't mean to do that, but we this was a story that came up today. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be a late show. It's at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's gonna be me and Aaron. And we'll see you tomorrow. Enjoy us. Thank you for coming by. Thank you for all the people who said hello in the chat and the new follower. You guys are great. And we'll see you tomorrow. Like and subscribe and all that jazz. All right, bye guys.
Bye.